Okay, so next on organelle on the list, on the notes. Here we go. Nuclear membrane. Nuclear membrane. Now, if the cell membrane surrounds the whole cell, where do you think the nuclear membrane will be? Ethan H?
I'll answer it and then I have a question.
Okay.
So it surrounds the nucleus?
Good, it surrounds the nucleus.
And then my question was, for the recordings, do you record them ahead of time and then they use the ones from yesterday? And then, okay.
Landon?
I forgot my note.
Your note packet?
As I use my notes.
Oh, you can borrow a pencil. Oh, okay. All right. Nuclear membrane. So if I were to kind of locate it on the diagram, it's this covering around the whole outside part of the nucleus. Now, if you look closely at the picture, you'll see these little holes all throughout the nuclear membrane. Okay? In the picture, they kind of look like little dents. All right? Those are the pores of the nucleus. Okay? Now, pores are like what we call tiny little holes in something. Okay? Our skin has pores, right? That's what our sweat comes out of. That's what water is absorbed into. Okay? Little tiny holes in our skin that allow passageways into our skin, basically. Okay? So the pores of the nuclear membrane, they allow things to move in and out of the nucleus into the cytoplasm. Okay? Now, what they allow to go in and out, we'll talk about here in just a minute. But because it allows things in and out of the nucleus, we say it's like the fence around City Hall. Okay? Allowing some things into the headquarters and some things not. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me show you another picture what the pores look like. Okay? From this angle, you can kind of see the nuclear pores are like little holes in the covering of the nucleus. Okay? Now, the question then is, what goes in and out of the holes? Well, those objects that go in and out of the holes are produced by the next organelle called the nucleolus. Okay? Now, you have to be super duper careful with nucleolus. This O right here is super important. If you write nucleus when you mean nucleolus, it is wrong. Those are two different things. Okay? Now, the nucleolus is located inside the nucleus. It's this big purple ball in the middle you guys keep asking me about. Okay? So the nucleolus is like a little ball or a center circle inside the bigger circle of the nucleus. Okay? Now, the nucleolus, its job is it is the place where pieces of ribosomes are made. Now, ribosomes are a whole different organelle we're going to get to later on in the notes. Okay? But the nucleolus, what it does is it actually creates copies of these ribosomes and pumps them out into the cell through the holes of the nuclear membrane. Okay? So, again, we're thinking about the nucleus as like City Hall, right? Or the Capitol building. So because the nucleolus produces ribosomes and sends them out of the headquarters, we say that the nucleolus is kind of like a copy machine inside City Hall. Okay? Pumping out copies of ribosomes and sending them out to the rest of the cell. Okay? Ethan H?
I feel like the nucleus should be like the mayor, like the literal mayor.
Like it should actually be the mayor?
Yeah.
You could say that too, yeah. Then you have the nuclear membranes, the fence around the mayor.
He's contained.
Quarantined. He's quarantined. Davin?
What is inside of the nucleolus? Oh.
The parts that make the ribosomes.
What's inside a copy machine?
What's inside the part?
I don't know. Okay, so next organelle is the mitochondria.
Ooh.
Say mito.
Mitochondria.
mitochondria. Okay? The mitochondria. Now, these are a larger organelle. They're the ones that kind of have the peanut shape. Okay? So, this guy right here is a mitochondria. This guy is a mitochondria. This guy is a mitochondria. And this guy. Now, this one in particular looks different, okay? Because it's showing you kind of like what the inside looks like. So it's kind of peeling back that mitochondrial membrane and showing you what the inside looks like. Now, mitochondria are very, very important for the cell. This is why. They take oxygen and food molecules and break them down, recombine them to produce ATP or energy for the cell. Okay? This is where the cell's energy is made. Oxygen is chemically combined with food molecules to release energy molecules. So, because it produces the energy for the cell, a cell without energy is dead. It can't do anything. It can't take in oxygen. It can't take in nutrients. It can't help rebuild the body parts. It can't do anything. It's dead. Just like a city without power is not really dead, but it doesn't function right. Correct? Go like this if I'm correct. Okay. So, because the mitochondria produces energy for the cell, we say it's kind of like the power plants of the city. Okay? What produces energy for the whole city? The power plants. Okay? So, we say they're kind of like the power plants within the city. Now, the actual molecule that is the form of energy used by the body is called ATP. ATP molecules. Okay? That stands for adenine. This is actually, you don't have to know this. Adenine triphosphate.
Where's the P?
Adenine triphosphate. Or no, here, phosphate. Okay? Those are the kind of molecules that our bodies use for energy. Okay? So here's what happens with the mitochondria process. Here's the mitochondria organelle. Okay? What goes in to the mitochondria is two things. Oxygen gas, O2, as well as food molecules or nutrients. Those two things go into the mitochondria and are used in this process to create the ATP molecules. Okay? That's just kind of the process. Oh, and I forgot to tell you what DNA stands for. Does anyone know what DNA stands for?
He told us yesterday.
Did it tell you yesterday?
It's the longest word you've ever heard.
Anybody remember what it is?
No. I remember the last one.
What's the last word?
Acid.
Acid. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid.
I wouldn't be able to get that.
I am not.
How do you remember that?
What about supercalifragilisticexpialidocious?
Deoxyribonucleic acid. One of the longest words I know. Deoxyribo. Say deoxy.
Deoxyribonucleic
Nucleic acid. That's what it stands for. Okay?
Wait, I have it. Wait.
Okay. No, we got to move on. Sorry. All right. That is the mitochondria. They make the energy for the cell. Okay? Here's what they look like a little more zoomed in. Okay? Inside of the mitochondria, it looks kind of like a squiggly maze. These are the structures that actually do this process. Not that process.
Not the DNA process.
This process. Okay? So, that's the mitochondria. Now, there are, depending on the kind of cell, there may be more mitochondria than some other types of cells. Some cells need more energy than others. Just depends. Okay? All right. Next one is also a very long word. Endoplasmic reticulum.
Okay.
Now, because it is so long, we do shorten it to ER sometimes. Now, ER does not stand for emergency room here, but it does stand for endoplasmic reticulum.
What?
Connor's so confused.
No, I'm not confused with this. Where does this go? It says produces blank and blank.
Blank and blank.
Endoplasm.
I know, but it doesn't say ER.
Well, ER stands for endoplasmic reticulum.
Duh. She didn't have to write it.
But it was it has more words in here.
Correct.
It only has 3 words. That has 4 words.
Correct, because E stands for endoplasmic.
Oh, I get that.
R stands for reticulum. Okay, the endoplasmic reticulum. Say endoplasmic
Endoplasmic
reticulum.
reticulum.
Good. Lots of hard words today. Okay, the ER, its job is to, together with the ribosomes, which we'll get to next, I believe, they produce the proteins in new membranes. Now, technically, the ribosomes, these little dots, the little yellow dots on the pink stuff, those are what produce the proteins. The ER helps to deliver them. Do you see how the ER kind of looks like a maze?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's a reason for that. The proteins hop inside the ER, and they are then delivered wherever they need to go throughout the cell. Okay? So because the ER delivers the proteins, we say that they're kind of like the highway system in the city for 2 reasons. Okay? First of all, if you look at highways from above, they look like a big maze, right?
Yeah.
Secondly, if you want to deliver something in a city, you put it on a truck gets on the highway and drives around to wherever it needs to go, right? It's a fast way to get from one place to the other. So the ER delivers things kind of like a highway. Okay? Now, what does it deliver? It delivers the proteins, okay, which are made by the ribosomes. That's the next organelle. The ribosomes are the dots on the maze, the little yellow tiny dots here. Okay? Now, ribosomes are also extremely important because they make proteins. And proteins are a big deal because the entire cell is built out of proteins. Okay? Let's pretend for a second we're going to build a building. What do we have to have? Well, we have to have building supplies. Okay? If we're going to build a brick building, we have to have what? Bricks. In the cell, if they're going to build anything, they have to have proteins. Okay? They're like the quote-unquote bricks of the cell. They build the parts. So, because the ribosomes supply the proteins, or the bricks, we say it's like the brickyard. Okay? A brickyard is like a company that makes bricks for you to go and purchase, to use. Okay? So the ribosomes create the bricks, and therefore they're like the brickyard of the city. Now, the ER and the ribosomes work together. The ribosomes supply the materials, the proteins, and the ER delivers them. Okay? Let's say something bad happens and the cell membrane maybe gets destroyed up here. Okay? The cell needs to produce proteins to then build that part back up. So the ribosomes will produce any of them will produce the proteins. The ER will deliver them to that spot and then build it back up. Okay?
The ER.
All right. Those are the ribosomes.
They're not ready.
Now, this is kind of a good point for me to remind you that the cell is not actually colorful like this. Okay? It's really more clear. But it's easier for you to see the parts when they're all colored like that.
Wait, so
It's pretty colorless.
it's all of like the light pink and like the stuff that looks like it's like light pink and then like the darkish pink red. Is all of that the
Endoplasmic
Yeah.
reticulum? Yes, all of this. Now, there are 2 types of ER as well. Rough ER is the parts where the ribosomes are attached.
Mhm.
Smooth ER is where there are no ribosomes.
Okay.
So think of it kind of like the dots make it bumpy and rough. It's rough ER.
So which one delivers the ribosomes?
The ER, the whole thing, the pink part.
Oh, okay.
The ribosomes are just kind of attached to it.
Okay.
They hang out on top of it. Hannah?
You said that the cell is like more clear.
Uh-huh.
Does that mean that we can like see through and see like the parts, like the nucleus, or is everything clear?
Everything is clear.
Oh, like the ribosome.
Mm-hmm. Remember the picture of like the onion cell I showed you yesterday?
Yeah.
How it looks clear, but you could see some kind of darker outlines of things?
Yeah.
That's a more realistic picture.
Was that like a real onion cell?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and you'll see when we go to the lab and look at the cells in microscopes, you'll see what I'm talking about
When is that?
next week.
Next week.
Connor.
The thing below. What is the thing below the yellow things?
The thing below the yellow thing.
The little yellow thing to the left, I think it was.
This?
Oh,
This.
the peanut looking thing.
What is this?
Yeah.
The mitochondria.
I know, but why does it look like a peanut?
That's just the way it's shaped.
It looks like a peanut.
I know. Well, that's how it's shaped. All right, moving on. We'll get to more questions in a minute. The Golgi bodies. Okay? Golgi bodies. Now, there are some people that refer to this as the Golgi apparatus. That's a little more complicated, so we call it Golgi bodies. Now, when the proteins are made by the ribosomes and the endoplasmic reticulum, the Golgi bodies help package the proteins and distribute them around the cell or outside of it. Here's the thing. Wherever the proteins are going to be used, they have to be shaped in a certain way. If they're going to attach to a carbohydrate, they have to be shaped in a certain way. If they're going to attach to a lipid, they have to be shaped, or a fat, they have to be shaped in a certain way. Okay? Depending on how the protein will be attached to whatever else, it has to be shaped. So in the video I'm going to show you here in a minute, you'll see that when the proteins go into the Golgi body, they get reshaped. Look up here. It kind of goes like this. Okay?
I'm so confused.
All the different parts of the proteins, called amino acids, they get rearranged and shaped to however the cell needs it to be. The Golgi body is responsible for doing that. So here's the order. These three kind of work as a team. So look up here. Ribosomes create the proteins. The Golgi bodies package them however they need to be. And then the ER delivers them. Okay? So we have the brickyard, makes the proteins. The Golgi bodies, we say, are like UPS in that they help package the proteins in certain shapes. And then the ER, the highway, delivers them. Okay? All right, so this is the shipping and receiving parts of the cell. They're kind of like UPS. Now, the way we identify them on the diagram is we say they're kind of like the stack of, the only way I know how to describe it is they look like a stack of pancakes. Okay? Because it has like a layer here, a layer here, a layer here, a layer here, and like a layer here.
Well, it's all
Okay? Parker.
From far away, to me, they just look like yellow ERs.
Yes. Yeah, they kind of do. But that's also because the picture is kind of pixely. Ethan?
So when is it the nucleolus that produces the ribosome?
Uh-huh.
So wouldn't that be kind of working together with it too?
Yes. Yeah, you can say that. Davin?
Golgi bodies look like they're just an egg that is just all yellow.
Yeah. Landon?
There's, in a way, I could see. I mean, if you really have good imagination, the ER definitely looks like a harvest.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I feel like the fact that we're comparing the job of each organelle with the parts of the city, I feel like that's making it a little more confusing and easier to understand.
Well, it takes a little more review, but hopefully it will become better understanding a little bit.
So is that the only Golgi body in there?
The only Golgi body in there? Yes. Mm-hmm. I think there's only one in every animal cell.
Animal cell.
Caleb? A bunch of what? T-bone steaks. All right, last one. Connor?
I have two questions about the same thing. What is the kiwi-looking thing on it?
Oh, we'll get to that in a minute.
Kiwi looking thing.
And why is it a kiwi?
A kiwi looking thing.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Hey. All right, here we go. Next one are the vacuoles. This is what Connor was just asking. Okay? So the vacuoles are located in an animal cell. They're little tiny circles all throughout the cell. There's one here, 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 and here. Now this one and this one are kind of showing you what the inside looks like. Okay? So the vacuoles, these are actually fluid-filled structures, and their job is to temporarily store extra food, extra water, or extra waste. If the cell has too much food or water, it can store it in the vacuoles to use later. Or if there's too much trash, it can store that in the vacuoles until it can get rid of it. Okay? An animal cell, like I said, has many small vacuoles. The reason why I have that on here is because in a plant cell, there's only one big vacuole, which we'll get to tomorrow. So because they store food, water, and waste, we say they're like the warehouses, like storage facilities, or garbage dumps where you would store all your extra trash. Okay? All right. Okay. All right. Now, last I'm going to point out before we get to the diagram of the cell. Up here, I get asked every year. Everyone says, what are the churro-looking things?
Churro.
Okay?
That's
They
exactly
look exactly like churros. Now,
They look like
they're called centrioles. Okay? Now, they become important in the mitosis process, which is the process the cell uses to replicate itself, to divide and bud, like we talked about earlier. Okay? We're going to do a whole set of notes on mitosis, and those will come back into play later. But just so you know, those are the centrioles. They're not part of these notes, but we'll talk about them later on. Okay? All right, so on the diagram, this is the next part of your notes. So if you go to the next page, you should have a diagram of the animal cell. We're going to label each part just like I did in the lesson up here. I will go ahead and warn you, on the test, ow, I just bit my tongue. On the test, you do have to label the parts of the animal cell and the plant cell. Okay? But we will review it so much between now and then that it will probably be pretty easy for you. Okay? So we're going to try and do it together first. Here's the picture. We're going to start in the top right corner of the diagram. Okay? So, someone raise your hand and tell me, what is this arrow pointing to? Now, it is trying to point to the whole outer layer of the cell.
Okay.
What do we call that outer covering? Landon? No, not quite. Different C.
Cytosol.
No, that would be the liquid stuff on the inside.
Chromosome.
No. Reagan? Cell membrane. Think of like a membrane as covering the whole kind of outer part. Okay? So we're on the top right. The top right blank on your notes is cell membrane. Now we're going to go down and around the circle. Okay? Okay, someone raise your hand and tell me, what is this arrow pointing to? The very center of the nucleus. Anna?
No.
Trinity? Nucleolus. Now make sure you spell that correct. If you label it on the test with a nucleus, it's going to be wrong. This is the nucleolus, the center part of the nucleus. Yes.
What if you spell the nucleus like normally and then you put O-U-S?
No.
Nucleus.
No.
I guess that would kind of still be nucleus.
This one. This arrow is pointing to the outer covering of this part. So this one is the outer covering of the cell. This is the outer covering of the nucleus. What do we call this? Hattie? What do we call the outer covering of something?
Membrane.
Membrane. So this is the what membrane? The nucleus membrane or the nuclear membrane. Okay? The nuclear membrane. Now, the diagram in your notes, I don't believe has the bracket here with the next one. On the test, I think it does. So, what do we call this structure? The bracket showing you kind of talking about the whole middle part. Davin?
Nucleus.
Nucleus. Again, make sure you spell that one correctly too. Okay? Reagan?
Can I try answering the next one?
Yes. What is the maze here?
Endoplasmic reticulum.
Very good. Good pronunciation too. Endoplasmic reticulum. For your notes, you do need to write out this full answer. On the test, I do accept ER.
That's right. Let's put it with a P.
Bless you.
Endoplasmic reticulum. This part here, the dots on the ER. Parker? Ribosomes. Good. The ribosomes produce the proteins that build up the whole cell, and therefore they act like the what of the city? Connor?
Oh, I just want to do the next one on top of that.
Okay, we'll answer this one too.
What?
The ribosomes produce the proteins, right? The proteins are what build up the whole cell. So they act like the what of the city?
They act like the builder of the city.
The brickyard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're going to the bottom left next. The bottom left, pointing to that stack of pancakes down there. Caleb?
Golgi Bodies.
The Golgi Bodies.
I just wrote Golgi. Is that okay?
No, you need to write Golgi Bodies. Connor?
Is it the next one?
Yes. What is the next one, Connor?
I don't know how you pronounce it. V-A. It's such a.
Try.
Vacuoles.
Close. Vacuole. Okay? Vacuole. These act like the warehouses and garbage dumps. They store the extra food, water, and waste. Next one, pointing to the peanut shape. Landon? Mitochondria. Good. Landon, what do the mitochondria do for the cell?
The mitochondria take up the protein and oxygen and create molecules.
What kind of molecules? They produce all of the what? Do you remember what they are like for this in the city? Help them out, Reagan.
There's a power plant in the city, and they produce the AC.
Which is the energy for the cell. Okay?
And also, when you said that the kid therapy was, you said centrioles.
Mm-hmm.
Work like with those trailers
Mm-hmm.
and things. They're called centrioles.
Mm-hmm.
How weird, that's exactly what I had in my hand.
I know, I heard you. Oh, okay, so mitochondria is like a power plant in that it produces the energy for the cell. Okay? And then lastly, the only one we haven't mentioned yet, this is pointing to that empty space where all the watery jelly stuff is filling it. Nathan? Cytoplasm. Good. Nathan, what does the cytoplasm do for the cell? Very good. So it acts like the what? Huh? Good. Very good. The cytoplasm allows things to move around throughout the cell. So we say it acts like the sidewalks or the roads. Okay? All right. Now I'm going to show you the video that goes through all the different organelles of the cell. The best part about this video is it shows you how busy and active a cell really is. I can't really show you that in a picture because the picture doesn't move, right? But truly, in a cell, there are thousands of things happening all the time. Okay? You'll also see kind of what I mean by the things float around in the cytoplasm. Okay? All right. So let me show you this video, and then I'll explain the homework.
I think this like our